When the midnight came, I was still in my supervisor's office, looking for the Inquisition paper Hector told me about yesterday. I heard the church bells, telling me it was day 5. In 5 more, I'd be leaving this goddamn place. But then I remembered. There was no church here anymore. The last one closed in the 17th century, after the Inquisitors left. The church had been in ruins for at least the last 400 years. "What the hell?" I said. I opened the office's window's curtains and looked out the window. The fortress cathedral was suddenly rebuilt. I could see its tall bell tower from the little cabin. There was someone ringing its bell. I tried to get a better look. That's when I saw a small group of monks coming toward the cabin's direction with torches in their hands. I immediately closed the windows. I needed to find the Inquisition paper as soon as I could. I started throwing open all of the archives drawers as fast as I could. Most of the files I came across were random documents about the museum's employees, contracts and taxes, visitors' records. I couldn't find anything about the Inquisition. I heard someone knocking on the door of the cabin. I had to hurry. I went like a madman, throwing everything around and looking for the paper. Then I heard the cabin's door opening. They were in the waiting room. I hurried to the office's door and locked it with the key. Hearing them knocking on the other side, they were shouting in heavy, accented Spanish, and some of them also in what seemed to be Latin. I grabbed one of the archives and threw it in front of the door, and threw one of the chairs in front of the window. I noticed that, in my hurry, I had knocked down my supervisor's computer, shattering it to several pieces. "Shit," I whispered, until I saw, in the innards of the computer, a file. I took it and immediately opened it. The whole thing was full of dust and dirt. It looked like it had been inside the computer for ages. Diabolici Spiritus ab Samipata. This was written on the document's cover, along with an illustration of what looked like a demon wearing Inca clothing and holding torches. It had a lot of pages. "Open up," I heard them say from outside of the door, and I noticed they were trying to break the door. I didn't know what to do, so I opened the window and jumped through it. I fell into a small amount of bushes, and as fast as I could, I ran toward the security shack without looking back. I fell about 10 times and ended up with several bruises, but I did it. I entered the security cabin and locked the door as fast as I could. Through the window, I saw the church tower and the monks walking around. They were not following me as far as I could see. I realized I had dropped my flashlight somewhere when I was running, but I didn't know where exactly. If that wasn't enough, I could only power up the shack by activating the energy system, which was located outside. I had no option but to spend the night in complete darkness. I didn't want to go into the safe room just yet. It was too dark to do it, and I had no clue what I'd find in there. Maybe if I sat down on one of the chairs and waited for the dawn, I'd be fine. As the manual said, I just needed to keep quiet. That's why I almost had a heart attack when, after 10 or 15 minutes of complete silence and darkness, the ancient television turned on and started showing me a bizarre black and white film on maximum volume. I'm not kidding, I literally fell to the floor, feeling one of the worst pains I've ever experienced in my chest. I started vomiting and struggling to breathe, but I couldn't. I eventually got better, but felt very, very tired. The TV was still on. The movie was a really old documentary about the fortress, showing a group of American researchers filming the place and talking about its history. I knew I had to turn the thing off, or whoever was outside would hear me, but I was just too tired to move, so I just stayed there watching. The movie went on for some minutes more, and I realized that it didn't make any sense, because the shack had no energy. The documentary started talking about the folklore of the fortress and its surroundings, and the researchers were having a conversation about the pit. I finally got up and slowly walked towards the television, still feeling my heart struggling. I guess smoking for almost 20 years didn't help me at all. I pressed the button to turn it off, but nothing happened. Actually, something happened, but it wasn't good. The movie started showing the filmmakers mutilating themselves with rocks they'd found on the floor. I almost threw it up again. I won't describe it here, but that was probably the most awfully horrible thing I've ever seen, and that's coming from someone who once worked as a janitor in a hospital. I threw the television on the floor, destroying it and stopping the movie, but then I heard footsteps outside, coming in the shack's direction. I unlocked the safe room and entered it, and then locked the door again. It was a very small room, completely white, illuminated by an enormous candle, and with a chair in the middle. The walls were completely covered with religious symbols and historic sigils. I sat on the chair and waited. I could hear them entering the cabin and looking for me. They were ripping the place apart, but for some reason weren't finding the safe room. After some tense 30 or 40 minutes, they left. I could hear the monks leaving and talking about where to look for me next. I knew they weren't coming back so soon, but was too terrified to move, and ended up sleeping on the chair after some hours, paralyzed by the fear. I woke up the following day with Hector slapping me in the face. "I've risked my life coming to work early to see if you were okay. Don't tell me you didn't find the paper," he said with a cigarette in his mouth. "I found it. Here it is," I said as I gave it to him. "What time is it, Hector?" 9:30, he said, looking at his phone. "Shit, we have to organize the cabin before the others arrive." I got up and entered the main room, but the place was completely fine. Even the TV was there, in its normal place. Don't worry. They put everything they find in the wrong place back in its original place every night. Somehow they even fix things. That's why everything in the cabin hasn't changed position in more than 20 years, he said as he looked into the Inquisition document. "Then how can I still have the paper?" "Because for some reason they can't enter the safe room. At least, not all of them." "Can any of them enter the safe room?" "The stalker somehow gets to go anywhere he wants." "Who?" "The stalker. I think he's described in Special Rule 24 or 25. Anyway, I don't need your help anymore, at least not for now. I'll tell you when you're needed." "Wait, you must tell me who you are. What is this place?" "Well, it's difficult to explain. I work for a pretty big international agency. We secure places, contain paranormal creatures, and protect the world. Or at least we try to." 2 or 3 seconds after he finished saying that, we heard a car arrive. "This must be Samir," Hector said as he put the folder in his bag and exited the shack. The day following that was pretty normal, with only one weird occurrence. I initially had a hard time keeping awake, but after 1 or 2 cups of coffee, I managed to do it. The supervisor arrived at 10:15 and went straight to her cabin. "Don't worry, they'll probably have reorganized everything in there," Hector told me as we watched her enter and divided a cup of cocoa tea. That wasn't true. She went out of her cabin less than 1 minute later and, with what seemed like a worried or angry face, I started sweating when I saw her coming straight into my direction. "I haven't done anything," I said when she approached. "Yeah, that's pretty stupid, but I've never been very smart or stoic." I was lucky she didn't listen to me because she had earphones in her ears. "Hector, Protocol S-1, she said as she removed the earphones. "Already?" he said, kind of worried. "Yes, he's here." As she said this, I noticed her cabin's door was opening behind her, and I heard footsteps coming in her direction. She handed a key to him. "Here's the key. You know the rules. Just check the computer. Everything's in there. The password is Samipata68, she said as she ran into her car and left. I saw footsteps appearing in the trail of her tires. What was that, Hector? That, Javier, is the stalker. I guess I'm your supervisor for the following days. Now, let me organize myself in her cabin, he said as he entered it. It's 1949 now. I'm writing this in the security room. I just received a message from Hector. He said I received a letter in my house and I needed to check it out. When I get home, I'll see what it is, and I'll keep you updated.